Welcome back to another RSMF video. Today, very exciting day because I have a new file format that I am supporting in Message Crawler. Yay, let's go to the screen. I'll show you what that is. And the file format is Google Hangouts. Now, before I load this in, I'm going to show you a couple of things. I'm going to switch to my Google Hangouts folder. This is where I saved my export that I have exported using Google Takeout. Google Takeout is how you can download your Google Hangouts data. So this is what you would normally get from Google, is a JSON file and bunch of attachments. However, I found a few problems with this export, some of which I was able to fix and some I was not. So let's talk about those. These attachments, if you look at them, some of them have same names. Well, funny thing is, we have 3 copies here. The JSON file only points to one of them. It does not point to the other attachments. And you see how they have different file size. So they are different files like these. Some of them could be duplicates. Sometimes it shows like right here, the files. Nope, is it not? Well, sometimes I see that their files have the same exact size. So those would be duplicate files. But sometimes you have files with the same name that are not duplicate files, and Google does not give you a proper link to those files. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, let's load this data into Message Crawler. So I'm going to go to Message Crawler, Google Hangouts. I'm going to say import, and I'm going to go to my Google Hangouts, and I'm going to open my JSON file. Now, this is going to show us that we have loaded JSON file that contains 30 conversations. Google groups data by conversation. So if there are 2 people are talking, that's a conversation. Multiple people are talking, that's a conversation too. So it's a nice way of organizing data. However, at this point, I don't know how many actual messages there are. We just know how many conversations there are. Next thing to do is to download attachments. Now, we've seen that we do have attachments in here that were downloaded. But because of the issue I just explained with file naming, I don't trust this attachment downloading. So I added my own download attachments button. I'm going to click on that, and now it's going to start downloading these attachments and putting them into this attachments folder. Now, funny thing you can see is there are actually more attachments in this folder than in this folder. That's because Google Takeout doesn't download all the attachments. Again, I don't know why, but it just doesn't. So that is why we have Message Crawler that's able to download more than Google Takeout. However, there's still going to be some attachments that are missing. When I was testing this on multiple sets of data, some of my data and some of clients' data, I did find that you get this error, not found, and the links inside the JSON file are broken, and you can paste them into a web browser yourself and see that you will get an error message that the file is missing. So there's nothing you can do about those. All right, so now that we imported data, we download attachments, we can bring this data into Message Crawler. So we can choose our prefix, we can say, Google Takeout, 1, whatever, and we can. All right, so what we have here that's very useful is a conversation identifier. So we know what conversations these messages belong to. We also have our timestamp, and we have a user ID. So here's one other problem that I found in Google Takeout. Sometimes participant name or username is simply missing, and the way they referenced is just by ID. And if you open a JSON file, there is a cross-reference table that correlates user IDs and names, and certain users are just missing from the table. Again, that's a bug in Google Takeout. So I even took this JSON file of my personal data and I uploaded it to one of the online free viewers for this, and I got same results. There were no usernames, even though in some cases username that was missing was mine. I'm the owner of this data, and instead of my name, it just had my ID. So there are a number of problems here, and the way you'll see it is there is going to be user ID. It'll just going to be in the from column instead of having the actual person's name. So what do we do from here? Well, we can export this by conversation. So if we set this as a conversation identifier, we'll get one RSMF file per Google conversation. The other way we can do it is we can use timestamp, format it to year, month, day. This way we'll get one RSMF file per day, regardless of conversation. Or we can combine the two and get one RSMF file per conversation per day. I did a separate video on that, so I'm going to quickly do that. So we're going to go to our timestamp. We'll use a short date, and whenever message type is attachment, we want to apply from parent. So we're going to take this date and push it down to attachment like a sort date. So I'm going to do format date. And next thing we're going to do is say generate conversation. And in this case, we're going to take our conversation plus generated date. And of course, we are going to do our message type of attachment, apply from parent. And we're just going to say generate conversation. Now, this conversation takes account this date and this existing conversation. So now if we scroll down, select generate conversation and run our export, we'll get our RSMF files by date and the conversation. So that is, one more thing. So we want to select on the recipients to our participants. Okay, so this is, so we have from and participants as to. This way, names of people who are also on the chat are included in the conversation header on top of the RSMF file. And that is generally it. We can find some of the URLs here that are broken. Right? So right here. So if we go through this, we see how we have a URL, but some URLs don't have an attachment. And if I go to here, I get this exclamation mark. So that is an indication that this file is missing. And it's missing on Google server, so there is no way to get it. So you will have something like this. Finally, you can export all this data by clicking save grid to that file. So you can generate your conversations, you can generate new dates, and then just export this to a DAT file, and it'll contain this native link. And now you can load this without an RSMF file. If you want to, you can just take a regular DAT file and load it into Relativity, and you can use either conversation or generate conversation as an additional relational field, so you can review your data that way. And in fact, the way I think I'm going to use this, I'm going to load data twice into Relativity. I know it's a little crazy, but I'll generate RSMF files, put them on one folder, and then generate that file and put them on a different folder. And I'll let users an option to look at both of those. And if they say, okay, I like this RSMF, I want to work with that, and they just do that. Or if they say, no, I want the filtering in the table, I prefer that, they can just go to view, see all the text messages, do their filtering and tagging and so on, and then they can produce an Excel file if that's what they're into. Anyway, this is a new feature, Google Hangouts support for message crawler. It is beta version that I'm showing you right now. By the time you see it, it should be available on my website to download. As always, it is free to try. You can download a trial version, play around with this as much as you want, generate RSMF files, put them into Relativity, see how it's going to look. Of course, don't use it on production data because trial version will remove some of the message bodies. But if you do like how it works, you can just buy a serial number on my website and you'll be all set, and you'll perform all the same steps and you'll be ready to go. In fact, I encourage you to try a trial version before you actually buy a license, just to make sure it works with your data and it works exactly how you expect. Thank you for watching. I will see you on another RSMF update.